This is otherwise state champ Alex Thompson. This is Josh Elwer from the University of Northern Iowa, and you're listening to Potentially Dangerous on IA Wrestle.
Hey, is this heaven?
No, it's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous podcast with the guys from IA Wrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IA Wrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show.
All right, we're here with Potentially Dangerous podcast episode number 86. My name's Eric Schares, and I'm along with special guest Mack Reiter, a former Iowa high school Don Bosco four-time state champ, and then he moved up north, was a three-time All-American for the Golden Gophers. How you doing tonight, Mack?
I'm doing really good. I actually just got done coaching a couple high school practices, and it's helping the young guys out.
How was that?
Oh, it's good. I help out from time to time over at Pinnacle up here in the cities where Jared Lawrence and Brandon Paulson and Jake Deichler got a pretty good thing going right now as far as just the youth in the high school of Minnesota is. I think it's taken off pretty good right now.
Yeah, I know you guys have brought quite a few people down to some of the national tournaments here in Cedar Falls and done some damage.
Yeah, it's fun seeing some of these guys that, you know, I've helped out at Pinnacle since 2008. And so, I mean, I've coached some of these kids for 9 years now. And, you know, you look at kids like Alex Lloyd and Peyton Robb and guys like that who have been in the program forever. Mitchell McKee was one that, you know, from the very beginning, you know, I've known these kids for almost a decade now. And it's just fun to see them making this next, you know, the next level.
All right. Well, I don't know if it was wise of Tony to leave the keys to the Lamborghini here with the two Don Bosco guys, but I don't know where we're going to end up tonight. Could be quite interesting. But you want to jump right into U.S. Open?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this is a pretty cool week. You know, outside of World Team Trials and NCAAs, and I kind of put it. You know, it's weird to say the U.S. Open. I'd be more, for me, you know, as a folk style guy, I'd be more excited for like a Big Ten tournament or, you know, conference tournament weekend than the U.S. Open. But this is, you know, one of the top 4 weekends of the year for the sport of wrestling coming up here. And it's always, you know, super entertaining with some of these matchups that you kind of talk about potentially happening when they actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I think it's kind of fun. You get a nice break from wrestling after, you know, NCAAs and whatnot, and then all of a sudden this kind of pops up out of nowhere, and it gets kind of the international whatnot season getting going. So,
yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
Looking forward to this weekend. Talked about we're just going to jump right into just do senior men's freestyle. First weight, 57 kilograms. I'll just kind of touch on maybe some of the key names here. You got Alan Waters, former Missouri Tiger. Tony Ramos, David Tyrell, Frank Pirelli, Jacob Colon, not Joe Colon, Jacob Colon. So you got Jesse Delgado, Mike Fuenfinger. There's a Minnesota guy.
Yeah.
Nathan Tomasello, Nika Megaludis, Obi Blanc. Oh, Roman Bravo Young. I don't think I saw that one.
That one just happened today. I saw he kind of showed up in the registration today.
And Zach Sanders as well from Minnesota. So that's kind of.
And Nishan Garrett, I think you'd missed him too. Nishan's there. Down at 57. I think that's I would assume that'd be a pretty good cut for him.
Yeah, that's gonna be real tough, I would imagine. Was it at Dave Schultz? I was just looking up here. I don't think he made 57. I think he wrestled 61 and didn't fare all that well. That'd be real interesting with him there. But what intrigues you at this weight?
I like this. I mean, this weight I think is probably, you know, the deepest as far as just from top to bottom. I think there's some other weights, you know, that we'll get into later where there's some more high-end guys. But, you know, this is kind of, you know, obviously you got Ramos Slayer, who's been on the, you know, the World Team 2 the last 3 years or wherever it's been. And there's a few young guys Tomasello, where's he at? Coming off this college season, I would assume, I never tried to do it, go from NCAAs and 4 weeks later wrestle in the U.S. Open. But, man, that's got to be hard because that college season can be just such a grind. But there's so many guys in this weight that really could win it. I think you could say, Alan Waters has had a lot of international success overseas, maybe not so much domestically against the U.S. guys, but he's done really well overseas in some tournaments. And that was up at maybe even 61, I think. So him down at 57, he could be, there's a couple big guys at this weight. If they can make the weight, could be pretty dangerous. David Terrell, he lit the NCAA world on fire there 2 years ago, or last year at NCAAs. He was, everybody's favorite. How does he do freestyle wise? Where's he training at? I think he could be somebody that's exciting. Jesse Delgado's back. Where's his motivation level? A lot of times you see guys that take that year or two off after NCAAs and they come back. It may take them a year or two to get back into the swing of things. But if Delgado's committed to a full cycle here, he could be, in 2020, there's no reason to think why he couldn't be a guy that you could be in the running there. He'd be getting a little up there in age, but he's tough. He's a tough wrestler. And then, obviously we said Nashon, if he can make the weight, he's as good as about anybody in there, I think. Nico Megaludis, he's been around. He's put in his time, I think, on the international scene now, where it's time for him to kind of start making that next jump. I think he's been 2 or 3 on the ladder for a couple years now, where he's knocking on the door. Maybe it's let's see if he can break through.
Going back to when you're talking about Jesse Delgado there, where's his head at coming back into freestyle? That I never wrestled at the college level or whatnot, but that's something I never understood how people could do. Once I was done with wrestling, I was done. I mean, you couldn't have paid me $1 million to get back in there. So I just can't believe that guys could come back and do that. That's just a motivation level that I could never comprehend.
I think I've kind of always believed that everybody has a kind of a finite amount of I guess I would say competitiveness in them, and when it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't really come back. Maybe Delgado just needed a little bit of a break, for, a refresher, get himself back going, and he wasn't completely burned out. I was the same way as you. I'll never forget that feeling when I made weight the last year. The last time at Saturday at NCAA's my senior year, I walked out of that place and I was ready to wrestle 2 more matches and then never compete again, because I had just kind of had reached my competitive limit. I believed it was kind of burned out, and I was happy with what I had done in the sport. So seeing guys like that come back, it's incredible. Or even you look at a guy like Tony Ramos had reached the highest of highs. He made the world team a couple times. He was competing in the world championships, and then kind of had that heartbreak in 2016 in the Olympic trials when he's that close. Committing to 4 more years is it's a huge commitment.
That's nuts.
Yeah, but it's awesome that we're getting the best guys doing that. I mean, USA Wrestling, there's no reason why we should not be competing for a world title as a team.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we there with Iran and Russia? So I like this weight. I think 57 is a great weight as far as talent goes. I mean, there's, running through the list, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys just scan through it super quick who are NCAA All-Americans. That's 10 guys in this weight who are All-American in college. That's awesome depth within the country.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun. It's not like some of these Greco weights where maybe one guy, and then when you're like, oh, who's this guy in here? Not that those guys aren't busting their butts too, but
right, absolutely
makes it a little easier to follow.
I think, I mean, Greco's kind of it's a very specific style, and you need to really kind of cut your teeth in that sport for a long time before you break through with a lot of those guys. So you just don't see the college guys jumping over to Greco and have an immediate success, because it's such a change. And where I think freestyle, and I think a lot of people, gravitate towards freestyles because, in America, I consider, it's weird to say, but I consider the NCAA as a bigger deal than the World Championships. And it shouldn't be that way, but just as a fan, I would rather watch the NCAAs every single day than watch the World Championships.
Yeah, I think it's just an American thing where, I know kids a lot, or some of these big-time kids say that their goal is to win a world title someday, but I just don't really see it when you're younger. The talk is a state title, a national title. So I think in other countries, they're saying world title right from the get-go, so maybe that's
right.
A little something different there. Since we got the Bosco guys in charge, we can do whatever the heck we want on this podcast. I want to jump back to when you were talking about you knew when you were done you weren't going to wrestle anymore. Yep. Was there a definite time during your senior year where you're like, all right, this is it, or did you maybe before that?
Yeah, I mean, I hit some lows. There was some real dark places mentally I went through my senior year. I just I went back down to 33 for our team. We're coming off winning a national title as a team in 2007. And, we had the whole team back except for Conrad. He's the only one we lost. And so with Manny Rivera at 41, Dustin at 49, and CP at 57, I needed to go back to 33 for the team. And I was, I felt I was a little big for the weight class. I mean, I've told this story before, but I stepped on the scale at 174 at one point that summer before my senior year, and it wasn't a solid 174. Don't get me wrong, but I was, I stepped on the scale and I was 41 over. I was like, oh boy, we're in trouble. But just that long cut, that it just kind of got to me. The season's so long, and there was a weekend, actually was I wrestled Joey Slayton at home, and night before that duel, that was a Friday night duel. Night before that duel, I was 13 over. I just let my weight get out of control. I wasn't disciplined, and I was just, mentally I broke and let myself get to a very important weekend. So we had Iowa at home on Friday night and Oklahoma State on the road on Sunday. So I wrestled Slayton Friday night and got beat, and wrestled Coleman Scott on Sunday and got beaten. I remember that week, coming home on that flight home from Stillwater, I was just mentally just not in a good spot. I was counting down, I was counting down the weigh-ins left, the days left. And then something switched. I had another tough weekend. The next weekend, we wrestled Wisconsin and Illinois. So I wrestled Tonelli and Jimmy Kennedy. Lost both of those matches. So that was another, so I had a 4-match losing streak going, I think, there.
Is that 4 all in a row there?
Tonelli did not All-American that year, but I think he did the next year. But then finally we had the last duel of the year, and we had Ohio State in town, and so I had Reese Humphrey. And it was just, for me, it was kind of like, you know what? We got, 4 weeks left in the season. I can make it for 4 weeks. And for some reason, just something clicked in me. And I wrestled Reese at home, and it was the best match I ever wrestled in my life. I think winning, 19-4, and just, I finally felt it. And then went to the Big Tens, and didn't have the best tournament at the Big Tens, but got through. And then the NCAA was able to, fake it. I guess, we had Mark Schwab always told me, fake it till you make it. And I just kept telling myself, just, you're fine. You're going to make it. And it ultimately worked out.
Yeah, that's always crazy hearing these stories from these guys like that.
The NCAA season is a grueling season, and it you can see it, guys. You see a lot of times in fifth-year seniors. Now, I don't know that the red shirt. I definitely needed a red shirt because I was not ready to go my first year of college. But then by my 5th year of college, I was also, my body was just tired.
Yeah, that's a long time. That's crazy.
Some of those guys, you see guys, I think that, obviously it's easy saying now, but pulling Mark Hall out of red shirt was definitely the right call. And that's easy to say because he wanted to NCAA title. But that guy is physically ready to go. And who knows where he's going to be in 5 years. He's not saying anything bad. He's wrestled a lot of matches in his life.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And your body can only take so much. The sport is hard. And, maybe down the road, who knows? So get him in while you're healthy.
You think there's any difference between now? Is the grind maybe harder and longer for guys who redshirt than back when you wrestled, or you think it's similar still?
I think people the coaches are getting smarter. We're improving every day and every year. You look at what coaches are doing with their athletes. They're not training them the same way, because that grind and beat them up style, maybe isn't. It wins. It certainly wins. But you're seeing the better athletes are winning now. Hey, you gotta build the best athletes so that that you're ready to go when the lights are bright. You're physically at your peak. So if that requires you to hold out a couple matches, I think in my outside of when I tore my ACL my junior year, I only missed one match my entire career. Maybe that wasn't the smartest, but nobody knew that. You look at guys. Because I hate this analogy because I love duels, but they don't matter right now. And so wrestling two matches every weekend in January isn't maybe the best thing for you.
How's that for a 57-kilogram preview for you there?
Well, that's what happens when you get a couple Gilbertville guys talking.
Oh,
I think getting back to it, looking at the weight, I think I had gone through and predicted each one. I have Ramos winning this weight. I think he's probably, he's actually, no, sorry. I had Ramos losing the finals to Tomasello. I had Tomasello winning this weight, and Nico coming in third. So, but there's a coin flip in a lot of these matches. The quarterfinal round here is going to be a ton of fun. So I had Tomasello winning it, Ramos second, and Nico third.
I think I'm going to have to go Ramos winning it too. Not that I don't want to. I would not at all be surprised if he doesn't win. Not that that's saying a lot because it's such a deep weight, but you look at last year's Olympic trials and you're like, hey, this was Ramos's weight until Dennis beat him. He wrestled 2 tied matches that he won on criteria against Garrett and Scott. So,
I'm excited to see what Tony Ramos looks like now that he's had some time to wrestle with Coleman and train with Coleman, and where's he at as a wrestler now? How much has he changed? Has he adapted? Has he developed? This is our first kind of real chance to see what kind of impact that's having on him as a wrestler.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the next weight here.
All right.
61 kilograms. You will have Logan Stieber, I believe, waiting in the best of 3, right?
Yes. So he'll sit out. I would assume he's not wrestling. There's no point for him to wrestle in the open because he's got to bye to the best 2 out of 3 in the trials. So.
Yep. So I'll just kind of touch on some of the names that look familiar here. You got Andrew Hochstrasser, BJ Futrell, Cody Brewer, Jason Ness, Joe Colon, JDJ, Johnny DeJulius, Josh Kindig, Kendrick Maple. You got Dardane. You got Seth Gross, runner-up to Corey Clark at 133 pounds this year. I think that's all your big-time names I'm seeing in here. What do you think of this plate?
This is, it's a little bit thinner, I'd say, than 57, but there's still some good guys in there. Obviously it hurts because our number one guy right now at the weight isn't in the bracket. The bracket looks obviously a lot better if Logan Stieber's name's in there, if you get to mention him. Yep. But like we said, there's really no point for him to wrestle in the open because he's sitting out till the finals of trials. I think some guys, Hochstrasser, he's put in his time and he's, kind of similar to Megaludis. I think Megaludis has been a little closer than Hochstrasser has over the years. But he's definitely, been around and been close to making some teams over the years. Jason Ness, I think, he's, we've kind of talked about a little bit with Jesse Delgado of, taking some time off and then coming back reinvigorated. And Ness took, 3-4 years off, maybe even coached a little bit at Minnesota and then decided he stepped down as the volunteer because he wanted to focus entirely on his competitive career because he decided he wanted to give it another shot and kind of was in between weights a little bit there. He was up at 65 and now those guys were just a little too big for him. He had some good matches. He had a 9-point lead on Pico in the World Team Trials or the Olympic Trials, and then just couldn't quite finish it off, and he ended up getting teched.
Couldn't quite another point.
Just needed one more, and he's moving on, but ended up getting teched himself. So But he's close. You know, he was third at this weight for the special trials for the two extra weights, the World Championships. He's kind of dealing with a little bit of an injury. He was over in Iran for the World Cup and actually ate some bad chicken and got a bacterial infection. And so it's kind of I think he's doing a lot better now, but it was a little bit there where he was kind of it kind of bothered him. That's what you get when you travel to those other countries. But I think the goal for him right now is just, get qualified for the trials and get healthy for the trials. Because I think, at this weight, I'm really, it's easy for me to say because, I spent a lot of time with Jason, but I think he's the closest threat to Logan Stever that there is at this weight right now. He's dedicated. I mean, he's all in on freestyle wrestling right now, and he lives the right life. I mean, he's very, very committed to his wrestling. He does, eats healthy, trains right. He does all the good things. So I hope that, he gets to the trials and gets healthy so that he can have a good run or, his best ability.
Yep.
Other than that, Kendrick Maple, I mean, Kendrick Maple's good. Josh Kindig's good. There's some, Joe Colon is as dangerous as anybody out there. Cody Brewer, when he's on, is pretty good. And then BJ Futrell. I think, you kind of look at those guys are probably the front runners to win it. I think guys like, DeJulius is good, Conway's good, but they're just maybe a step behind. Ardanes, now that they're trained down in Iowa. I think this would be a pretty good poll for Nick. It's interesting that I think Chris is up at 65 and Nick is down at 61, so they flipped from where they were in college as far as who's the big one, who's the little one. But I assume this is a pretty good cut right now for Nick to make 61 if he can get down there and recover by the time that the tournament gets going. He'll be as big as anyone in the weight. He was a 49-pounder in college for a little while. So
I think when you have somebody sitting there waiting in the challenge tournament or in the finals that kind of, has some of the other guys maybe go to a different weight if they're kind of on the border. I guess that's kind of what I think I see when I look here. I see some names that are pretty big from college, but at the same time, you look back at like the Dave Schultz tournament, and Kane and Storr, all these guys. I mean, I know Kane and Storr's a stud, but you're like, yeah, I mean, for these guys to have a shot to take out Stever, they got to be beating Kane and Storr, you'd think. But
right, absolutely, they should not be a match they'd be losing. Yeah,
so that takes a little of the wind out of the sail at this weight for me. Not something I'm really totally following, but
right. I'm really embarrassed by this, but for some reason I'm drawing a blank on his name. But the one name we're missing is the guy from Wrestle from Wisconsin.
You're not talking about Graff, are you?
Yes.
Oh, because he's wrestling Pan Am's, right? Isn't he?
So that's why he's not wrestling in the Open?
I think so. His Pan Am's this weekend.
Okay, good. I was to say I'd like to see him. He's right there too. You'd like to see him keep going. He's a good representative for the U.S. So if he's getting to go down to the Pan Am's, that's good experience for him as far as continually getting some of that international feel.
Yeah. How about we move on to the next weight here, since there's really nothing crazy at that one.
Okay.
Or I guess did you want to give your pick to win that weight? You think?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say Jason. If Jason's healthy, I would take him against anybody in this weight. We'll see, how he's doing. If he's a little, if it's still kind of bothering him a little bit, I think I ended up taking Maple to win it, which is, it's hard to take that because I haven't seen him in a while as far as freestyle goes. So picking him to win it, let's see if he's healthy and he's fully invested into it. I think him, Futrell, or Brewer. If Ness isn't healthy, I'd say Maple, Futrell, or Brewer is the winner.
I think I tend to agree with that, but just since I can do whatever the heck I want, I'm going to go Joe Colon here with the Iowa guy.
Okay, I'm a big Joe Colon fan. I mean, he's fun to watch wrestle.
He sure is. All right, 65 kilograms. Let's see, we got Chris Dardanes. We got Evan Henderson. I believe he won Dave Schultz. You got Frank the Tank Molinaro. Jaden Ironman just was an NCAA All-American. Jimmy Kennedy, Jordan Oliver, Kellen Russell, Mario Mason. There's kind of a thing from the past. And then I think Rutherford. What do you think?
This is a fun one, man. This is a fun weight because, again, kind of similar to 57. I think you could say there's 4 or 5 guys in this weight that could win it and are very, very good wrestlers.
You got experience against some of these guys, don't you?
A few of them, not a lot of success, but I've got some experience. I guess maybe just Jimmy Kennedy. Career college, I was 1-3 against Jimmy, so not a very good record. Jimmy's tough, and he was, he looks at the part, but that guy's strong. And I think he kind of similar with Frank Molinaro and really Zane Rutherford. Those are 3 extremely strong guys, and then you kind of have the opposite with the more athletic guys like Jordan Oliver and Kellen Russell. So it's a bit of a contrast in styles between those. I would say those are definitely your top 5 at this weight. So Frank Molinaro, Zane Rutherford, Jimmy Kennedy, Kellen Russell, and Jordan Oliver. And a few of them have been around for, everybody's been around for a while except for Zane. He just he's been around for a while, but he's just done the age level tournaments up until last year when he was finished 3rd in the trials. So
that's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is, like you said, Zane Rutherford gets 3rd at the trials last year, comes through the backside and beats guys like Chamberlain and Jason Ness. Then who did he beat for 3rd? Beat Jimmy Kennedy. Those are some big-time names, but at the same time, a lot of those guys aren't necessarily in it on the backside. Their hearts aren't right. You never really...
It's easy for a guy like Zane Rutherford, who hasn't done 4 years on the cycle, to be excited to wrestle in the backside of the world team trial or the Olympic trials, where a guy like Jimmy Kennedy, who's invested everything into making this Olympic team and had fallen short to kind of get back up for those matches. It's a little bit tougher. There's some results there for sure, like you're saying, but how much are those results, are they an exact replica of what we would see on the front side of the bracket? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Frank, I think he's down now at Virginia Tech. Be interesting to see. He hasn't been there very long, but having Jared Frayer there is the last 2 Olympic team members at this weight are coaching together now. You got to assume that Frank will get some good training or some new feels with Frayer, because Frayer's got some real dangerous stuff from chest locks and front headlocks. And Frank, I would assume he's as strong as he is, he's not a guy you'd want to go under. That's for sure. I think you take a bad shot on him and you're going to pay for it. So, and then you kind of on the flip side, you look at a guy like, I'm excited to see where's Jaden Ironman at? I think he's a little small for this weight. Since he did wrestle half the year at 33 this year before it got to be too much of a cut. But these are some big guys. So just kind of I like to see him entering this tournament. It's pretty cool to see a young guy like that throw his hat in the ring at a level where I would assume he could probably wrestle in the UWW juniors. I would think he's still, maybe he's a year or 2 old for that. But if he's not, guys like that, just skipping that UWW junior and going right into this, the actual senior open's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess the biggest person I'm most curious about is seeing where Jordan Oliver's at.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of been following him a little bit on Twitter, and I wouldn't say he's cocky on Twitter. He seems to be real confident, which I think is a great thing, not a bad thing at all. But
no, absolutely not.
I just think I'm just real curious to see where he's at. Obviously we said Zane Rutherford. Curious to see where he's at. Then Molinaro. I was a big Iowa fan, so I was cheering for Metcalf last year, and Molinaro takes him out, and he's the U.S. guy, so I'm cheering for Molinaro. But I really became a big fan of him in that bronze medal match against was it Chimizo from Italy?
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's a world champ, and he gave him everything he wanted. So,
Yeah, I think Frank Molinaro made a lot of because what he had to go through. I mean, to get the weight qualified. We talk about how deep we are at this weight always, but we still had to go get it qualified at one of those last chance qualifiers last year for the Olympics. And I think we are deep, but we were just kind of missing that highest level guy. Somebody to break through. And I won't lie, I didn't think Frank was the guy. I didn't think that there was
agreed.
a chance he would get it qualified, and he went out and he did it. And then, man, he was seconds away from winning a bronze medal in the Olympics, and he made a believer out of me in that tournament. Well, at least I became a fan. I really liked the way he wrestled, and I liked the way he competed. I think he's extremely strong mentally too. He believes in himself. And you have to at that level. You have to believe in yourself. If there's any shred of doubt, I don't think you're not wrestling for third place in the Olympic Games.
Yeah, for sure. One more name I don't think we touched on yet was Kellen Russell.
Yep.
Another guy who's been right there, right behind Metcalf, I think, for a couple of years, and then I got all these other guys in here now. So
Kellen always seems to me like he has the immense amount of talent, but there's one guy he runs into the bracket where he can't beat, or it's like, and maybe it's
there's Montel Mary.
It's a style, yeah.
Like go ahead.
If there's just a style or a build of a guy that he can't, if it's these strong guys where, or Metcalf, who was just such a grinder and so mentally tough that he would, he's in your face. If that's the thing that he couldn't quite get through, maybe now Metcalf's not in the bracket, does it open it up for him a little bit?
Yep, absolutely. Want to make a pick here?
I think, my head, actually, I got Rutherford winning it. My heart, I'm pulling for Jimmy Kennedy just so I can say I got a win over a world team member, but that's, I have a losing record against him, but I got one win.
To your last shot at getting a win over a team member?
Shoot. I need Reese to come back, man.
Yeah,
Look at that guy's still in great shape. He needs to come back.
Maybe he's training for you.
What's that?
Maybe he's doing it for next year for you.
Yeah. Well, 2020. Let's come back. I want an Olympic win. World team. That's not as cool. Let's get an Olympic one.
These guys are gonna be like 50 by then.
That guy works out all the time, man. He can do it. If anybody can.
Insane. That stuff he can do. That's crazy.
I'm very, very impressed every single time he puts one of those up online, whether it's Instagram or whatever. It's I've never actually tried to attempt one of them on my own because I don't think it would end well.
Well, I would try, but I feel like every time I'm watching, I'm like eating a candy bar or something. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna try this.
Yeah, absolutely. But I got Rutherford. I think I had him beating Frank in the finals. Jimmy, I actually had Jimmy over Oliver for third. And I don't know if Jimmy's had a lot of success against Oliver. I think, but for some reason I just maybe heart picked that one.
Well, I think I'm going to go with Frank on this one.
Okay.
So I have no idea. So Frank is my pick there. All right, on to 170 kilograms. You have Alec Pantaleo of Michigan, Dylan Ness, someone you're very familiar with, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Hunter Stieber, Jake Soufflon, James Green, Jason Nolf, Jason Chamberlain, Jason Welch. Let's see, we have any other big names up here. Nate Carr, Nazar Kolchinsky. That's about it. Thomas Gant, maybe. That's kind of those are the big names there. What do you got here?
Oh, this one's, I'm excited to see where Nolf's at. There's no doubt about it. I think you could say he's definitely the most exciting, or was, right up there for most exciting wrestler in the NCAA last year. So, you give him a style like freestyle where points can be scored in real quick bunches. And I want to see where he's at. Yeah, I think you look at last year, he wasn't even able to make a UWW junior team because he was behind Hall. But Hall went on and won the Junior World, so it's not like he was behind somebody that wasn't good. I just want to see the development, I guess I would say. How is he progressing? I mean, obviously he's extremely good at folk style, and he's very, very good in freestyle. There's no doubt about it. But can he make this team? Because there's some good guys. You got James Green, who was a world medalist at this weight, and then you've got a lot of other guys who have been around for a little while. Jason Chamberlain, Jason Welch.
And Taylor made the junior team last year.
Yep, and Taylor made the junior team as well. And that was down at the weight down, was it? Or where was he at?
I don't know. I have no idea. I could act like I know, but I don't.
I think he may have been, I don't know. Yeah, but he made the junior world team, and obviously Taylor was an All-American as a true freshman for Michigan. So he's talented. Hunter Stieber, if he's healthy, that's kind of always been his problem, is if he's healthy. And similar to Dylan Ness too, those guys are healthy. They're fun to watch, and they're pretty dang good themselves. I think a lot of people are, man, a Dylan Ness and Jason Nolf match would probably, I don't know how it would go, but it would get people to watch, I bet, if those two are somehow drawn into the bracket near each other, just because of the potential. What's that?
They ever wrestled?
I don't believe they did. Because Nolf was a true freshman when Dylan was a senior the year Imar came in and won it that as a freshman. So, you look at Dylan wrestled a couple close matches with Imar, or wrestled that Big Ten final. Imar beat him, I think, controlled, but I can't remember the score out there at Ohio State, but it was a fairly good match. And obviously Imar and Nolf have had their goes, so it'd be interesting. I mean, I think it'd be a fun one. Where's Dylan at? I mean, he's tried Greco there for a little bit, but like I said, it's really hard for folk style guys to make that jump over to Greco. You need to really invest a lot of time into it because it's fairly different. So he tried that for a little bit and decided he didn't really like it as much and wanted to go freestyle. So now he's been pretty consistent in his freestyle training. I've seen him around here, and I've heard some good things about what he's doing training wise. So I'm excited to see him compete. I think that obviously this is a tournament where you can prove yourself, but he's got his work cut out for him. That's for sure. There's between Nazar. I mean, Nazar's been around for a while too, and
you afraid of his last name, or why you call him by his first name?
It's just easier. There's just too many Y's. When you got 3 Y's in your last name, it's just, I'm not going to try it.
It's Kolchitsky. It's easy.
Kolchitsky.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
But Jason Chamberlain, we talked a little bit about him, James Green, those guys. This weight, I think the seeding's going to be interesting. Does Green still get seated on his world medal, or where does Nolf? Where do they throw him at with no real international experience? He's got a lot of folk style wins, but not a ton of freestyle. I mean, I hope he's not drawn into the bracket.
Not be off wherever gets him.
Yeah, that's but I guess I don't know how they seed it. I mean, because I think they go off rankings, I guess, and I'm not sure where he's at. But man, that would be a dangerous one to have drawn in.
Yeah, for sure. I know a couple kind of picking Hunter Stieber to do better things, but I just, like, back to what we were talking about before, he was just hurt for so long that that's got to be so hard to get back up to that level that you were at when you got hurt. I mean, we're talking 4 years where he was just not right.
Yep.
That's just a long time.
Unless he got some new elbows. Maybe he got new elbows. But man, that guy, he had some bad luck, and he was as good as they came his freshman year.
Yep.
He beat Kellen Russell that first year, right? Out at Vegas, I think. And that was a win that, like, everybody's like, oh boy. That just could never quite stay healthy. So if he's back, and maybe the freestyle, the freestyle circuits, obviously you don't compete nearly as much. You're not weighing in twice every weekend. You're not, it's not a grind. It's, I think they're trained to peak a little bit better for these 5, 6, 7 tournaments a year that matter. So maybe this is better suited for him. My my pick. I had Nolf beating Green in the finals.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. It's just Nolf's just one of those guys where until I see him lose again, I'm just dumb to pick against him.
Yeah, I don't know how you can. He wins and he wins a lot. I wonder where, if Imar he'd be a 70-kilo guy, right? Or is he getting too big? Is he growing out of that weight?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe for one, day before weigh-in.
He looked big at NCAAs, so maybe he has grown out of it. He's filled out to all of 165. So.
Yeah. Okay. I guess since we haven't talked since NCAAs, you want to go back to that finals match you wrestled with Vincenzo there, quick. I couldn't believe how was it with the arm drag Vincenzo kept him with. I thought he could have arm dragged him all night long. Imar was just not adjusting to it from what I was seeing.
Yeah, that one was hard for me. I am a huge Imar fan after everything he's kind of gone through. I really, he's probably my second favorite guy in college to watch behind Kyle Snyder because Kyle Snyder's amazing. But yeah. Imar's just, that one was a tough one. It just didn't seem like it wasn't the same guy from, the first 2 years. And he had a pretty dominating season. He didn't have he looked good all year. He looked fresh. But then the tournament, he's not the guy that tightens up. That's not him. He's loose and he's free and he's confident. Anybody that comes out to the champ is here for the NCAA finals. Like that's my guy. Like, you're confident, and it just, I don't know. It just didn't seem to, hopefully, maybe it reinvigorates him and he comes back next year a new guy and really lights the world on fire, because I think he has the absolute potential to do that. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, to me that didn't look like the same guy in the finals either there. But, I mean, same thing. I just don't understand how, like a Nolf, when you're at the top for that long, like how do you stay motivated when you're just killing every practice? That's another thing I guess I'll just never understand.
Right. Or even like, Kyle Snyder. I mean, like, how is it that you're still getting excited for the Big Tens when you went and won a gold medal in Rio? Like, that's and to me, I said earlier that I think that the NCAA tournament to me is more important than like the World Championships. But even, I think when you compete in them, I think you may have a different perspective. But as a fan, I have a hard time following it just because I don't know those foreigners. I don't know.
Yep.
Whereas I know like the guy from Indiana, I know about him. It's you kind of, where you don't know about the guy from Turkey. You have no idea on his backstory or what he's done. So I think as a fan it's easier, but as a competitor, I think you may look at it differently, and maybe that's kind of why I wonder, like, how do you still keep getting up for it?
Yeah, I agree. All right, ready to move on to 74?
Yep.
Okay, let me throw out some of the big names here. Alex Steringer, Anthony Valencia, Chance Marsteller, Chris Perry, Dan Valamont, Jordan Burroughs, Kyle Dake. Let's see who else we got. That's pretty much it with some of those big names already mentioned.
You skipped over Kevin LaValle, last guy to beat Dake in college.
Yeah, he won Dave Schultz. He was the highest finishing American.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, no, he did win it. Okay, what are you thinking here?
God, man, this is the way, I talk about, 57 has the depth. This has got the high-end talent. There's no doubt about it. No disrespect to any of these other guys, but I think it's a 3-horse race, which is so weird to hear myself say when the weight has Jordan Burroughs in it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we're making way too much out of one tournament, but there's going back to what we talked about, you've been at the top. How do you keep staying up there? The guy won 3 world titles and Olympic title. Like, you've done everything in the sport. How do you keep going back? And especially when he was so publicized and he was hyped up so much by the media going into Rio, and just to have it fall short there, even to to even medal, like that's that's got to be so difficult to deal with.
I mean, that's my thoughts exactly on him. And then you even throw on top of that, you just had your second kid too. Like a lot of people forget, these guys have life going on after practice, and I don't even understand how you could stay motivated through that. But
right, and I think he does a good job of separating himself, and when he's in the room, he's in the room, and I think. I talked to a lot of people who've been out to the OTC and have watched him train and stuff. And I've got, with a guy from Pinnacle that is now a redshirt at Nebraska, Taylor Venz, who I expect to do big things in college. But, he's trained with Burroughs and there's a level of focus there that you just don't see out of a lot of people. And so, he does a great job of when he's in the room, he's there, and he's there to get better. So, I think, and I actually picked Dake to win, and I thought I was going out on a limb, and then I've talked to a lot of people, and everybody's like, yeah, I did too, and now I want to go back the other way. I want to beat Burroughs because I don't know. It's just like maybe we are making way too much out of one tournament, but Kyle Dake and Alex Derringer are very, very, very good wrestlers, and Jordan Burroughs is a very good wrestler. And so I think this weight's super exciting. The one name I would throw in there, just again over Derringer's Chris Perry is there that big brother syndrome kind of. I would assume Perry wrestled Derringer when he first got to college. I had guys in college that really beat up on me my redshirt year, and no matter how much I progressed throughout college, I could never beat those guys just because it was a kind of a mental block. Yep. So does Perry have that over Derringer? Or maybe that doesn't exist for a guy of Derringer's quality. But I don't think that I don't think Perry matches up that well with like a Dake or Burroughs. Just kind of a how does the brackets fall? Where the guys get drawn in at? But
yeah, I agree with everything you said so far there.
I think everybody wants to see Burroughs Dake, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, Derringer had a pretty good showing there at the Club Cup?
Yep.
But, to me, it's just Dake and Burroughs, are we going to be passing the torch yet or not?
Right.
And then did I hear that is Dake going to go up if he doesn't beat Burroughs here?
I haven't heard that. I would be surprised. I mean, that's so going up 12 kilos, like.
Yeah.
You're going to be so small. You just can't put on, 28 pounds of weight or 27 pounds, whatever it is. Like that would just be. I would be shocked if he did. Maybe Are you saying for next year or for the trials?
I thought I just heard that. Maybe I just made it up, but
okay. I hope he doesn't. I mean, I think I want Kyle Dake to pick a weight and commit to it.
Yep.
Kind of bouncing around. I don't think it's good for him. Just kind of listening up. I don't know if you would listen to. I'm sure you did. But when David Taylor was on T-Ron Funky show, just how he talked a long time about when he went up in weight, how he could not get himself in good enough shape. Like no matter what he did, his body just couldn't adjust to it. And I hope that Kyle Dake isn't doing that to himself.
Yep.
I want to see him go all in on one weight and have a healthy run at it, because I think that whenever Burroughs does decide to be done, and I think we have a good replacement in Kyle Dake or Alex Derringer, and I hope that they're both. I want the U.S. to obviously do well, and so hopefully they get a chance to wrestle there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm basically agree with you 100% on this one. I want to see Burroughs win, but I'm just thinking it's Dake's time. So I think I'm gonna have to go Dake here. Maybe I'll make you happy that way you can pick Burroughs.
Yeah, I want to. You take Dake, I'll take Burroughs. I want to have Burroughs because I want him to. I don't want it to end in Rio because that's not Jordan Burroughs.
Yep.
I want him to have another shot. I want him to go out his way to represent this country the way he has for the past 5-6 years. Like he's been our rock as a country, and he deserves another shot at winning a gold medal because I believe that you put him in that tournament, and there's nobody better suited to wrestle in that World Championships because he's been there, he's done it, he knows what wrestling 4 or 5 matches in a row at that level of competition is like.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing that makes me nervous with Burroughs is that game don't age well.
No.
I mean, all that explosive quickness. He doesn't need to fall much to have everybody catch up to him.
Right.
Be ineffective. I'm not saying I don't think that's necessarily happened yet, but
right.
They say Father Time's undefeated. But you want to move on to the next plate?
Yep, let's go up.
86. All right, we got 86 here. Bo Nickel, David Taylor. We got Gabe Dean. Kyle Crutchman, not really know. Nick Heflin. PD3, Pat Downey.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much maybe TJ Dudley, but other than that, that's the big names I'm seeing here. What are you thinking at this point?
Well, I see David Taylor's registered twice, so he's going to try and wrestle in this tournament twice. It's a tough go.
Double the chance winning.
Just kind of running down the list. Bo Nickel, I'm interested to see because a lot of people didn't know it. Like he wrestled in that last chance qualifier last year, trying to get into the trials, and he had Kevin Steinhaus, who Steinhaus just decided to come back out to try and go into the last chance qualifier. He trained for 2 weeks going into that tournament and trained freestyle wrestling for 2 weeks, and I think he teched Bo Nickel in that tournament. So, where's Bo Nickel at as a freestyle wrestler? Obviously, he's a great folk style wrestler. He's a 2-time national finalist as a sophomore already, but like Steinhaus was no world beater by any means, and he was a great college wrestler, but he never wrestled freestyle his entire life. And trained for 2 weeks and tech Bo Nickel there. So that's a result I think a lot of people didn't see. And, obviously it says a little bit about where he was a year ago freestyle-wise. Gabe Dean, I'm hoping Gabe Dean has a good run. The interesting thing about this weight is you've got a guy sitting out in Jaden Cox. He's sitting out the Open because he's got to bye to the finals of the trials after getting third in the Olympics. So it's for any of these guys to go through they don't have the same reward at the end of the Open. That bye to the finals is so valuable. So going through that grind of the trials is going to be tough to get a fresh Jaden Cox, but not that it can't be done to beat him. And I think we've got. There's one guy in this weight I think that definitely could do it, and that's David Taylor. Just kind of, he's my pick to win this weight. I think it's easy to say that after watching what he did at the World Cup. Man, I was watching that from work and I was like jumping up and down. I mean, what he did to Yazdani was amazing. That was, just absolutely ran him out of gas.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think this is his weight here too, at least at the U.S. Open. Before you were talking about that big brother syndrome with Perry and Derringer, I think that applies to Nickel and Taylor here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would guess that when Bo Nickel came in and redshirted, I would imagine David grabbed him and roughed him up a little bit in the room a few times. And that's there's a reason why Bo Nickel won an NCAA title as a sophomore and was a finalist as a freshman. Wrestling guys like that. But I'm hoping, I don't know where you're at in this, but I believe if there is a God, man, put Patrick Downey against Bo Nickel first round after everything that's kind of gone on over the last couple months. That would be justice.
I think I heard his dad gave him a bye to the finals, so he wrestles back at U.S. Open.
Well, that's good.
I'm gonna have him tweeting at me tomorrow, probably now.
Yeah, it is what it is. I would like, if he is as good as he says he is, man, you got a chance this weekend to prove it. There's no doubt about it. I don't even know if we mentioned like a guy like Nick Heflin, who was an NCAA finalist. This Kyle Crutchmer, this weight's extremely deep, but I just, it's hard to really mention a lot of these names because I think that we both maybe agree that there's one guy that's just a little bit head and shoulders above everybody else. Richard Perry, Timmy McCall, TJ Dudley, all these guys are great wrestlers, but it's David Taylor. And after the last time we saw him wrestle, I think he left an impression on a lot of people that he's ready.
Yeah, I think his time's now for sure. To me, I still think Gabe Dean's a better wrestler than Bo Nickel. After watching that, NCAA finals match,
Mm-hmm.
Nickel's just wrestles such a weird, scary style that I don't know. I'm always nervous when my guys are going up against him. So I'm not saying that carries over to them, that they're nervous wrestling him, but
yeah,
I don't know. To me, this is Dave Taylor's weight, and then it's just fight for second, third.
Yeah, and I think, man, if we get it at the World Trials Finals, David Taylor versus Jaden Cox, man, that's a fun one.
Oh, for sure.
No doubt. I think Taylor matches up better against Jaden than Kyle Dake did last year at the Olympic Trial Finals. Taylor just has that unfortunate mental block against Dake. We just can't get over it. But I think he's a better matchup against Jaden than Dake was.
Yep. Plus another, Jaden Cox, another guy we don't necessarily know how fully he is into training. I know he's talked about playing football or doing other things.
Yep. Yeah, maybe he's, I would be surprised if he doesn't at least enter the trials since he's got the bye. But you need to, David Taylor's fully living the life of training right now. And if you're not all in and you're not setting yourself up for the best success.
All right, let's move on to 97 kilograms. Kyle Snyder's weight. Maybe we can not necessarily fly through this, but go a little quicker since we know it's just a matter of who's getting second place, basically, is what we're thinking.
Yep.
Let's see, we got Blaze Cobble, the Iowa boy there. You got Bobby Stevenson, Dustin Kilgore, Kyvan Gadsden, both the Burak boys, Ty Walls. Those are some of your big names.
Ty Walls is the interesting one to me, man. He's going to be a big guy at 97 kilos. I think that, like you said, these guys, Kyvan Gadsden's got a win over Kyle Snyder, but that was a folk style win, and they got the fall. That would still count in freestyle, but I think Kyle Snyder now is a different animal than what it was, 24 months ago.
Yeah, I agree. Talking about Ty Walls, though, one thing I'd be almost willing to guarantee, I bet he won't get gut wrenched. Have you seen the chest on that guy?
Yes. Nobody's even going to get a lock.
No, I don't think so. You think your arms get halfway around him?
What's that?
You think your arms would make it at least halfway around him?
I've got those long arms, that cradle. It kind of helps stretch out my arms over my life, and I think I could get halfway.
We put the over-under at halfway. You think you get halfway? Okay.
Yeah, I think looking at this weight, I have Gadsden winning the Open. I think he's Gadsden. Kilgore's been around for a while, but I'm hoping for Kyvan. I'm a big Kyvan Gadsden fan as well. So Gadsden, Walls, or Kilgore, I think is probably the favorites right now at this weight.
Yep. One interesting dynamic I always think of, I don't know if anyone else does, is when you got two brothers entered at a weight like this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this isn't trials where only one guy moves on, but to me, isn't it kind of weird? You and your brother enter, and you're looking at each other going, the best we can do is one of us makes it through, and the other doesn't.
Yep, one of us is going to be crushed, and the other,
That's just crazy to me. I guess
so how many places out of the Open? Is it still top 7 or how many places go to the trials from the Open?
That sounds about right.
I think it is top 7, or at least at one point it was. So it would be really cool if the Burek brothers were wrestling each other for 7th and 8th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
One of them's going to Waterloo for the last chance.
Yep. I think that's in Rochester this year.
Is it Rochester this year?
I think so.
Oh boy, we get it in Minnesota. Exciting.
All yours. So, well, I guess we got to at least pick a winner, though, don't we?
I got Kyvan.
You got Kyvan.
Yeah, I want Kyvan to win. I think hopefully he's in a good spot training wise, and I'm pulling for him.
Okay, I want Kyvan, but just to continue to be different than you here, I'm going to go Dustin Kilgore. Won the Dave Schultz.
So they're both listed out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Are they both down at ASU training down there?
I know someone said Kyvan was, so obviously if Kilgore's listed, I'd imagine he's down there too.
That'd be with Pendleton down there. That's a pretty good guy to roll with, a good coach.
For sure. Absolutely. All right. On to the last weight.
Yep.
155. Okay. We have your boy, Anthony Nelson from Minnesota. You got Big Bob Telford, Don Bradley. You got Nick Wisdowski, Zach Ray. Those are your big ones here. What do you got?
You definitely named them. Don Bradley, I don't know if you mentioned. There's this way. It's kind of thin. There's 5 guys I think that really are worth mentioning. And then I think a few of those. Tony Nelson, he's putting in some time. He's done a couple tours. I know that I know Zeke, when Zeke was out there, he really liked working with Tony a little bit. So I think Tony's got a good style for freestyle, and then he's so big and strong. He's not going to get pushed around very often. If you can just put on a little bit more weight, and he's pretty good defensively. Obviously, I think a lot of Iowa people would say that he's really good defensively. But I'm excited to see how he does in this weight. He hasn't broke through against some. I mean, he's had a lot of success against Don Bradley. I beat Zach Ray for NCAA title. Wisdowski, he had beaten earlier and then lost to in the NCAA final. So, all these guys have wrestled each other so many times. But after the, I think after the World Cup, I think you would say that especially with the performance he had, Wisdowski, he looked good out there. Had a good tournament. I think from what I've heard though, he's had struggled with Ray. I don't know if he's ever beaten Ray in freestyle. He just always seems to come up one move short. So, seeding on this weight is going to be interesting to see how the bracket's drawn out, who matches with who, because I think Nelson's had a lot of success against Telford and Bradley, but I don't not Wisdowski. So
yeah, to me, Telford and Nelson, they're both right there. I don't think they're quite in it yet. To me, this is down to Zach Ray and Wisdowski. Now that Galagnoff is retired, but Ray he's been 1B with Galagnoff for all them years. He just could never beat him. So imagine how that would be for him if he's right there for 5-6 years. He's like, all right, when this guy's gone, I'm the guy in. Then all of a sudden, Wisdowski rises up and takes him out. That would suck.
That would be a tough one to handle. That's the problem. That's what makes being a world team member so great, is that only one guy gets it every year, and it's hard. Especially with as few weights as they're giving us now. Hopefully this 10 weights thing goes through, but that's what makes being a world team member so awesome.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zach Ray here, though. Who you got?
Tony Nelson.
Tony Nelson. Give me a homer.
I had to. He's my guy.
Maybe I should for done.
Yeah, there you go.
I got Ray. All right. Well,
all right.
Looks like we've just over an hour now. Anything else you got?
No, I think that's fun. I'm excited. The nice thing is we'll get a chance to watch all the coverage. And man, it's a fun weekend. It's, you get these matches, these like dream matchups, and they're going on in the quarterfinals. At some of these weights, like 57. It may be, 57, there's, like I said, there's 10 guys who are All-American in college. So that's going on even before the quarterfinals. So these guys are meeting. So it's a fun tournament, unlike a lot of other things we see where it's kind of, you get through the first couple rounds before you weed out some of those guys. This one gets going right away.
Yeah, for sure. I think the more years that go by, the more I kind of get into the whole international wrestling. I never really was big into it in high school, but yeah, it's fun even following some of the juniors. I know we talked about 55 kilograms. So that's going to be crazy with Gavin Teasdale, Dayton Fix. Then we'll get to see where our boy Alex Thompson from Iowa X up against some of those guys. But
Pinnacle guy Patrick McKee's in that weight, I believe.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Mitchell's little brother Patrick's going to be in that weight. He's young. I think this is his first year in UWW juniors, or maybe it's his second year. But I think he's a little small maybe for 55, but he's fun to watch.
I think that might be the deepest weight when you're talking all classes as far as the studs in there. But yeah.
I'll be watching a lot of that UWW juniors. Pinnacle sending quite a few guys out there. So they're competing these guys could be in the running to make some teams. So that's exciting that these guys that have been training for a while now got a chance to make a world team.
For sure, man. All right, well, if you don't have anything else, I think it's about time for me to head to bed here.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Have to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
All right, good deal, man.
Get low when the whistle go.